Thank you. This time we can open it up to questions from the audience if there's any questions.
You talked, first thanks for coming, and you both talked about the role that allied groups can play as well as the leagues themselves, the NCAA, combating homophobia sports. I'd be interested in your thoughts on the media and what role the media can play or has played historically, especially in light of March Madness with Brittany Griner, just perhaps the best, one of the best top elite athletes ever, but definitely in women's basketball this past year. And the things that she faced from the media in terms of the NCAA quote-unquote dunking like a man and having a lower voice. I was interested if you see media leading the way or following kind of the leagues and these other leagues and combating.
I think it cuts both ways, and I think that in the case of someone like Brittany Griner, you've got you've got some really unfortunate. Why isn't she judged on her own? Why are those comparisons there? Well, it's partly because that's how athletes are judged against each other in general. But I think that when you start, when the media starts assigning those types of categorizations, that's where it gets dangerous. That's where it gets harmful. You Can Play has had an interesting couple of weeks in that TSN, the sports network out of Canada, their broadcasters just did a You Can Play video, and we didn't expect it, we didn't see it coming, but it was one of those things where their broadcasters actually said, we will not cover your sexuality as part of our story. And that's the point. It's the first time, as long as I've been doing media, I've been, part of what I've done is communications professionally for 20 years. This is the first time that any sports medium has ever said, you might be gay or lesbian or transgender. That's not going to be the first thing that we cover. Where I guarantee you that American media, that will be the first thing that you cover. So, like I said before, it's going to, those first 2 or 3 men or women who come out as openly gay while they're still playing. And I draw that distinction because there have been plenty of men and women who come out after their playing careers are over. That's fine, but those first several men and women who come out while they're playing are going to be big media stories. But until the media censors itself and says, this is not what we care about first and foremost, even if it sells papers or drives ratings, it's going to be a problem.
And if I could just take that into another direction of talking about like college marketing, internal media development, I would love for them all to just adopt the adage of like, first do no harm, right? If then you want to go out and take positive steps, great. But let's end some of the practices that are currently prevalent in college marketing. First of all, with regard to female athletes, putting pressure on them to only present themselves in like super stereotypical heterosexual ways. Also with respect to coaches, I mean, how many times have you read a coach's biography that ends with, and Coach so-and-so lives with his devoted, loving wife and their 3 gorgeous children. It's safe for men to put that information in their biographies when it reflects a sort of heterosexual ideal, which then puts pressure on women to do so when they can, which then draws a glaring, obvious omission when female coaches' biographies don't have that information. And that's something that perpetuates negative recruiting. What would be great is if you're going to mention people's families, do it across the board. And if you've got a female coach who's open about, who she, the female partner and maybe their kids, being just as proud of that as you are, your straight male coach. Or if you're not, make it a level playing field and don't talk about anybody's personal life in the media.
Just adding on to that for just 1 second. I think that there has to be some buy-in from LGBT athletes on this. At some point, there is going to have to be that openly gay or lesbian coach who's biography says he lives with his partner and 500 kids, or or she lives with her partner and
500 cats. No, that's a stereotype.
Just saying.
Takes all kinds.
You know what? As we all know, those gay and lesbian athletes, and we've all talked about it, and at some point, they have to step up and help these straight allies that we've been talking about. And whether that happens tomorrow or this afternoon or 2 years from now, it will happen, but there has to be some help.